Be'ez Hashem Yisborach, we begin Perek Revi, the fourth chapter in the Rambam's Hilchos days and the laws of proper conduct and character development in the Sefer Mad in the book of knowledge, which in this paragraph we continue regarding the appropriate path that a person should take, and specifically discuss regarding the healthiness of a person's body. As Rambam begins and opens up in Halacha Aleph, he says, since the body being whole and healthy is midarchei Hashem, who is from the path of God, which we spoke about, the derech hamamutza, the appropriate path that a person should take in his life. It's not possible to understand or to know the knowledge of the Creator, and he should be sick at the same time. Therefore, the person has to distance himself from things that destroy the body, and to conduct himself with things that heal and make his body strong. And they are, which now the Rambam gets into discussion regarding eating and regarding exercise. A person should never eat unless if he's hungry. He shouldn't drink unless he's thirsty. A person should not hold back his need to go to relieve himself or the bathroom, even for one moment. Rather, any moment the person needs to urinate or to relieve himself in excrement, he should stop right away and go relieve himself. Halacha beis, a person should not eat until he fills up his belly. Rather, he should diminish around a quarter of being satiated, meaning he should only eat 3/4 of what it means to be full. And the person should not drink water in the middle of his meal, only a little, and should be diluted with wine. And when the food starts digesting in the stomach, then he can drink what he needs to drink. But you shouldn't drink too much water, even when the food is digested. A person shouldn't eat until he checks out his body very much well. Maybe he's going to have to relieve himself, so he should check out to see, does he have to go and relieve himself, and only then should he eat. A person should not eat until he first walks before he eats, until his body starts to warm up. Or he does some type of a work, or he exerts himself in some other type of exertion. Which the rule of it is Ya'ana Gufay. A person should exercise his body, and he should work it out in some toil every single morning. Until his body starts to warm up. And then they should be quiet a little bit. Until his soul calms down, and then he should eat. And if he bathes himself with warm water after he had worked out, that's good. And then he waits a little bit, and then he eats. Halacha Gimel. Should always be, the person's eating, that he should be sitting in his place, or inclined a little bit to the left. But he shouldn't be walking, he shouldn't be riding, he shouldn't be exercising. A person should not be shaking his body. He shouldn't be strolling. Until the food is digested in the stomach, and only then should he do these exercises. And whoever strolls after he eats, or he exercises, he's going to bring in himself many harsh and terrible illnesses. Rather, a person should be let the food first digest. Halacha Dal, continue on to his sleep. The day and the night is esem ba'arba, so there's some total of 24 hours. It's enough for a person to sleep a third of the hours of the day, which a third of 24 is 8 hours a person. It's enough sleep. The Yubah should be the end of the night. So that it should be from the beginning when he goes to sleep until the sun comes up. Should be 8 hours. It comes out that he gets up before the sun is coming up. So the end of the night doesn't mean, it means when the actual night happens. However you divide the hours, then, because since there's 12 hours at nighttime, so the last 8, not the first 8. Halacha hey, a person should not sleep loyal upon him, not on his face, not on his back, which is on his neck. And let's see, they're rather on the side. He should be leaning on the side. In the beginning of the night on the left side, on the end of the night on the right side. A person should not sleep close to just having eaten. Rather, a person should wait after he ate, around 3 or 4 hours. And a person should not sleep during the daytime. Continue on to his the foods that he eats. Things that loosen the intestines, they're laxatives, kogoin anofim, grapes, te'enim, figs, vatutim and mulberries, vagosim and pears, vavatichim and melons, and miniakashum and different types of cucumbers, uminim alafafainis and different types of zucchini, That's what a person should eat first, before he eats his meal. He shouldn't mix it with his meal. Rather, he should wait a little bit until it goes out from his upper stomach, and then he should eat his food. Now, things that constrict, that constipate the intestines, could go in, for example, rimonim and pomegranates, uprishim and quinces, v'tepuchim and apples, ukrusta toimolim, which are some small type of pear. The person should eat it together with it right by his food, but he shouldn't eat too many of them. If someone wants to have what we call chicken, meaning fowl, some type of the bird creature, and at the same meal to have the meat of animals, what we call meat, so first eat the chicken, then the meat, first have the fowl, then the b'sar behema. Same type of idea when you want to have eggs and fowl, first have the eggs. Or b'sar behema daka, b'sar behema gasa, let's say you want to have both meat, but that of small livestock, like goat, and then you want to have from large livestock, like that of cows, then first eat the meat of the small livestock. Which the idea is you should always have yaknim adam. A person should always eat first the lighter thing, and then do later on the heavier thing. Halacha ches in the summer months, a person should eat the cold foods, or it could mean the unseasoned foods, and it shouldn't have too many spices, and it should eat vinegar. In the winter months, then it should eat either means the warm foods or the seasoned foods. It should increase the spices. It should eat a little bit from the mustard, which is a type of a strong and warm type of a spice that warms the person up. And this path is what a person should go and do. But in the cold climates, in the warm climates, again, whichever place it's appropriate for what it is. Like we said, when it's hot versus cold, there should be different types of foods. Certain foods that are very, very bad. It's appropriate the person should never eat these foods. For example, these large fish, that are salted and aged. And then you have you have the salted and aged cheeses, these mushrooms and truffles, and these aged salted meats, wine from its flask, which was just pressed, and if you have a dish that was sitting around until it has this pungent aroma, or any food that its smell is very bad or very bitter. Therefore for the body, like the potion of death. Mean like poison. Now there are certain foods that they're bad, they're not as bad as what we just mentioned just before. Therefore it's not appropriate for a person to eat from them but a little bit. Only after a few days went by. And he should not get accustomed that this should be the staple of his food, or always be eating it with his meals. For example, large fish, so they're not aged and salted, but the large fish, again, that's not the best type of food. Or cheese or milk that has already sat around already a period of 24 hours after it was milked. The meat from large oxen, the meat of large goats. V'hapoil, the beans, v'adoshim and lentils, v'asapir and chickpeas, some type of legumes, v'lechem se'erim and barley bread, v'lechem matzahs and the matzah bread, v'akruv and cabbage, v'achotzer and leek, v'abitzalim and onions, v'ashum and garlic, v'achardel and mustard, v'atznoin and radish. These are all bad foods. It's not appropriate for a person to eat from these foods, only a little bit, ad ma'id, very little, and in the winter months. But in the summer months, should not eat from them at all. And then you have specifically only the beans and the lentils, they're not appropriate to eat, not in the summer months and not in the winter months. Now, regarding squash, that you could eat from in the summer months. Now, there are certain foods that are bad, but they're not as bad as what we mentioned before. They are the waterfowl, and these young pigeons, and dates. And you have bread that was roasted with oil. Or you have the bread that was kneaded with oil. Or so you have flour that it was so finely sifted that you don't even have any part of the thick bran remaining in it, which that's necessary for the fiber. And vahatzir and the fish brine. the hamurius, which is the fats that comes out from the pickled fish. It's not appropriate to have too much of these food items. But a person that's smart, and he subdues his inclination, he's not drawn after his desires, and doesn't eat from all these things that we mentioned anything at all, unless he needs for medicinal purposes, he's considered a mighty person. A person should always hold himself back from the fruits of the trees. You shouldn't have too much of them, even when they're dry. You don't have to say when they're moist. But before they're fully ripened, they're like swords to the body. And carobs are always bad. And all the sour types of fruits, they're bad. You only eat a little bit from them in the all the pickled fruits, or they're bad. You only eat a little bit from them in the summer months, and in the warm places. And the figs, and the grapes, and almonds, those are always good. Whether they're moist, whether they're dry, a person could eat all he needs from them. But it shouldn't be constantly eating them. Although they're the best from all the fruits of the tree, again, don't overdo it. Ultimate at sea is nish git. Halachid beis. The honey and the wine, it's bad for the young ones, but it's good for the old people. And all them also in the winter months. A person has to eat in the summer months, only 2/3 of what he eats during the winter months. Halachid gimel regarding holding back and preventing illnesses. A person should always attempt that all his days, his stomach should be loose. It should be a little bit close to diarrhea. And that's a great rule in regarding to medicine. Any time that a person finds it, he's constipated, that his waste matter is not coming out, or comes out with great difficulty, great terrible sicknesses come. Now, how could a person loosen his bowels if they get a little bit constipated? So, if he was a young man, he should eat every single morning these plants that are salted with their taste, that are shlukim, that are cooked very much. They're spiced with olive oil, with fish juice, and with salt, without bread. Or he should drink the cooked juices of spinach, a kruba or cabbage, with olive oil, with this fish juice, the fat that comes out, v'melach and salt. Now, if he's an elderly person, he should drink diluted honey, b'mayim chamen, that was diluted with hot water, with warm water, but in the morning. He should wait around 4 hours, and then he should eat his meal. He should do this one day, or 3 or 4 days, if that's necessary, until it loosens his bowels. Another rule they said regarding the healthiness of the body, as long as a person exercises, the yoga harbi puts in a lot of effort, and he doesn't fill himself up, and his intestines are loose, his bowels are loose, no sickness comes to him, and his strength becomes strengthened, even if he eats the bad foods. Now, but whoever sits comfortably, and doesn't work out, doesn't get exercise, or he holds back going to the bathroom, or whoever it's hard, his bowels are very tight, are very strong. That even if he eats the good foods, and he guards himself based on the laws of medicine, all his days he's going to have pains, and his vigor is going to be weak. Now, overeating for the body of a person is like poison. It's the primary idea of all illness. Most sicknesses that come to a person are not, they're only either because he's eating the bad foods, or because he stuffs his stomach, and he overeats, even from the good foods. This is what Shlomo says in his wisdom, the pasuk Mishneh. He guards his mouth and his tongue. He guards his soul from pain, from difficulty. In other words, what do you mean guarding his mouth? From eating bad foods, or from stuffing himself. L'shoina, in his tongue, is Maldaba from speaking, El B'tzrachav, because he only speaks what he has to. Look, the Zayin continues now with regarding the bathing. Derech Rechitza, the appropriate path of God's path of bathing, is Sheikans Adon L'merchatz, a person should go into the bathhouse, Meshiva Yom L'Shiva Yom, once every 7 days. Below Yikanas Sabach L'Achil, shouldn't go in close to his eating. Below Shirav, not when he's hungry. El Kashias Chalamas L'Sakal, it's only when this food is starting to digest. Berechitz Kaguf B'cham, and he should wash his whole body in warm water, She'en Aguf Nechvebem, that won't burn the body. And Bereshel Bavad, now only his head is B'chamet Shaguf Nechvebem, would be with hot water that the body would be burnt. The head could have that hot water. Then he should wash his body with lukewarm water. Then even more lukewarm water. Until it gets cool and cool, until he washes himself off with cold water. And but he shouldn't put on his head water, not lukewarm and not cold water. There should be, like we said, very hot water. The person should not wash with cold water until he sweats, and that he breaks and he exercises, massages his whole body. The person shouldn't spend too long in the bathhouse. Only when he sweats, and he massages his whole body, he should rinse himself off, and leave. The person should check out his body to see if he has to relieve himself before he goes into the bathhouse, and after he leaves. Maybe he'll have to relieve himself. So the person should always check to see if he needs to relieve himself before he eats and after he eats. Before he has intimate relations and after he has intimate relations. And before he puts in exercise, and after he does exercise. And before he goes to sleep and after he goes to sleep. Which the sum total of all these times you have to check yourself are Sarah, are 10, the 5 times which I said, one before and one after. When a person leaves the bathhouse, he should put on his garments, he should cover his head, in the outer room of the bathhouse, that it shouldn't take hold of him a cold spirit, and he shouldn't catch a cold. Even the summer months, one has to be careful. Then the person should delay after he leaves, until he calms down, and his body is relaxed, and the heat is removed from him, and then he should eat. And if he sleeps a little after he left the bathhouse before he eats, that's very good. But he shouldn't drink cold water, but say when he leaves the bathhouse. You don't have to say that for sure shouldn't drink in the bathhouse. Now, if he's thirsty, when he leaves the bathhouse, he can't hold himself back, then then at least mix the water b'yayin and wine or with honey, and then drink. Now, if he smears himself with oil, b'merchatz in the bathhouse, in the winter months, after he rinsed himself off, that is good. Halachit Ches continues with bloodletting. The person should not be accustomed to always be letting the blood, which was a Talmudic practice, a way of health, of removing what was the congestion of the blood. The person should not constantly be doing that, and they should only do the bloodletting unless he really needs it very much. Neither should he do the bloodletting not in the summer, not in the winter. Rather a little bit in the spring, and a little bit in the fall. And after the age of 50, he shouldn't do bloodletting at all. A person should not do bloodletting and then the and to go into the bathhouse that same day. A person should not do bloodletting, which weakens his composition. And go out on a journey. Neither should he do on the day that he came back from a journey. And he should eat and drink on the day that he does bloodletting, less than what he usually does. He should rest on the day of the bloodletting. He shouldn't put in a lot of effort, shouldn't exercise, and shouldn't stroll. Lochites regarding intimate relations. Shikva zera, semen, hikoich haguf, is the power of the body. V'chayav and his life, it's the illumination of the eyes. Whenever too much seed comes out of the man's body, haguf kala, the body gets depleted, v'koich kala, and his strength is wiped out. V'chayav and he loses his life. Shlomo says in his wisdom in Mishneh, don't give to women your strength, because when you let out the seed, it diminishes the man's vigor. Whoever is immersed in the having intimate relations, old age jumps on him, meaning he gets old young. And his strength weakens, and his eyesight gets diminished. A bad odor comes out from his mouth and from his armpits. Now the hair of his head, begabas einav, and his eyebrows, brisa einav, and his eyelashes, noishers fall out. Usar zakane, and the hair of his beard, v'shechiyab, in his armpit, the saraglav, and the hair on his legs, rava, they increase. Shinab neifles, his teeth fall out. V'har kevim chutz me'ilu b'amilav, and many pains besides these come on to him. Which Amar Chacham from the sages of medicine said, Echad me'elef meis b'shar cholam, 1 in 1,000 dies from some other sickness, v'elef, and the other 1,000, mideh b'tashmish, from too much marital intimacy. Levikah, therefore, tzarcha adam lizar b'davazeh, therefore a person has to be very careful with this. If he wants to live in good state, and he should only have intimate relations, only if he finds his body to be very strong and healthy. And with Miskasha Harber Shlomo Daite, he has an erection that's without his willingness. And he's trying to distract himself to something else. But the erection is as it was before. And he finds kovid, a heaviness from his loins, which is by his waist and lower down. It's as if the tendons in the testicles are extending. And his flesh is warm. So such a person needs to have intimacy, and it would be therapeutic for him to have intimacy. Now, a person should not have intercourse, and he's satiated, he's full or hungry. Rather, after the food is digested in the stomach, that's when he should have relations. And he should check if he has to go to the bathroom before intimacy, after intimacy. He should not have intimacy standing, not sitting, not in the bathhouse, not even on the day that he went to the bathhouse, not the day of bloodletting, not a day that he's going on a journey, or the day that he came back from a journey, not even the day before and not even the day after. Regarding having a good ending. Whoever conducts himself in these paths that we have illustrated, and the Arvlay, says the Rambam, I'm a guarantor for him. He's not going to come to sickness all his days until he gets very old, and then he dies. He's not going to need a doctor. His body is going to be whole. He's going to stand on its healthiness of all his days. Unless his body was inferior from the day that he was born, or he already had conducted himself with some bad habits from the beginning of his birth, or become some type of a plague, or come some type of drought to the world, then those are extenuating circumstances. But barring that, he will not get ill all his days. Now regarding all these good habits that we have spoken about, the only one that should follow these dictates are the healthy person. And if you do that, it'll be good for him. But a sick person, or one of his organs, one of his limbs are not well, or someone that has already been doing bad habits all his years, so then they all have other paths, and customs, according to his illness, like it's explained in the literature of medicine. So that's going to be different. And changing any habit is the beginning of illness. Any place that does not have a doctor, so then whether a person is a healthy or a sick person, then it's not appropriate for him to move away from all the paths that we said in this chapter, because every one of them is maybe will bring to a good end. Now, actually, it's regarding one of the stipulations of where a person lives in a town, which requires that there be a doctor. Any town that does not have one of these 10 things, a Talmud scholar is not allowed to live over there. They are roife, a doctor, so like we said, you should have a doctor. Bu'uman, a bloodletter. Beisamechas, a bathhouse. A Beisakise, a laboratory. A mayim mitzuyim, there should be water found over there, for example, a river, a mine, or a spring. Ubesaknesis, in a shul. A malamet tunekis, a school teacher. V'lavler, a scribe, a gabbet a charity collector. Ubezdin makam, and there should be a court that could hit and imprison those who need to be locked up.